Good evening, and I'd like to welcome you and call to order our Lucan Biddulph Council meeting for Monday, June the 16th. I would like to acknowledge that I am an ally of Indigenous peoples. The township of Lucan Biddulph is located on the treaty and traditional territory and ancestral lands of many Indigenous peoples and is covered by several Upper Canada treaties. We honor and respect the history, languages, and culture of the diverse Indigenous peoples who call Lucan Biddulph home. We endeavor to unlearn colonial mindsets and practices and to grow in knowledge. As we build meaningful relationships, we recognize contributions of Indigenous peoples and respect their leadership and partnership in shaping and strengthening our community. We acknowledge historic and ongoing injustices that Indigenous peoples endure in Canada, and we affirm our commitment to honoring Indigenous voices, nations, and cultures, and to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Deputy Mayor Manders.
Yeah, I have one. I, Dave Manders, hereby make a declaration of pecuniary interest direct with respect to agenda item number 6.2, item titled PL-10-2025 on the agenda dated June 16, 2025, property owner to the consent application. Thank you.
We don't have any additions to the agenda, but we just have a change to the schedule, and that is item 7.1, which was found in the planning portion of our agenda, is being moved up to the delegation and presentation portion of the meeting. So the province of Ontario recognizes Seniors Month in June, and this year the theme for the month is Fit, Active, and Healthy Seniors. The theme emphasizes the importance of wellness, social engagements, and lifelong learning for seniors. It encourages seniors to stay active and engaged in all aspects of life. By naming June Seniors Month, it provides opportunity to acknowledge and appreciate the valuable contributions of seniors to the communities across the province. Tonight, we have the pleasure of presenting a local resident with the 2025 Senior of the Year Award. This year, we recognize Linda Barr. Many of us around the Horseshoe know Linda and are aware of her volunteering involvement in our community. It is something that she has always done. She has always found a way to contribute to organizations that improve the quality of life in Lucan and Lucan Biddulph. She is an active volunteer with the Scouting organization and sits on our Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. Life has not been without its challenges for Linda, but through it all, she shows up and is always asking what I can do and not showing any sign of slowing down. We are grateful for her commitment to Lucan Biddulph, and we look forward to many more years of her involvement in our community. Please join me in congratulating Linda Barr on being the Senior of the Year. We don't have a closed session, but we do have to adjourn our regular meeting at 5 minutes after 6 in order to sit as the Committee of Adjustment under the Planning Act. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Westman and Councillor Hodgins. All in favor? And that's carried. So we have a few applications in front of us this evening, and the first one is a minor variance application for a property on Granton Line. And Alyssa, I believe that you are the one in charge of the planning applications tonight, so I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose and effect of the minor variance application before committee is to permit the construction of a 360 square foot accessory structure, which exceeds the maximum permitted lot coverage for accessory structures by 1.7%. The proposed structure will replace an existing accessory structure at the rear of the property, which is to be removed. The subject property is a 500.27 square meter lot situated on the east side of Grand Line, north of the intersection at Fallon Drive and Grand Line. The lands are legally described as part of Lot 1 and 2 on Plan 221 in the Township of Lucan Biddulph, County of Middlesex, municipally known as 34428 Granton Line. The property currently contains an existing dwelling and an accessory structure used as a garage and a shop in the rear. The property is designated commercial under the official plan and is zoned central commercial in zoning bylaw. This zone allows for an existing single unit dwelling and accessory uses such as proposed. The lands are surrounded by residential uses on all sides. A comment was received from the neighboring property opposing the application, noting that they have recently sold their property and want to ensure that the new owners have had the opportunity to review the application. And staff were able to reach out and provide this application information to the new property owners, and they have commented that they have no concerns with the application. A comment was also provided by the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority that they have no objections to the application. I reviewed the application against the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and as indicated in the report, I am satisfied that the requested additional lot coverage for an accessory structure would not cause negative impacts to adjacent properties and meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. Therefore, I'm recommending approval of minor variance application A4 2025. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alyssa. Any questions or comments from the committee on this application? No. Okay, seeing none, then we do have the recommended motion in front of us that the application for minor variance A-4/2025 filed by Kyle McManus and Melissa DePreez for relief from the Township of Lucan Biddulph Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw to permit the construction of an accessory building with a maximum size of 360 square feet or 6.7% accessory building lot coverage for property known municipally as 34428 Granton Line, Granton, be granted. Alyssa has laid out the reasons for that. If I can get a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thank you. The second application in front of us is a consent application, and this is for a property on Saintsbury Line. Alyssa?
Thank you, Chair. The purpose and effect of the consent application before committee is to reconfigure property lines for the properties including and between 34034 Sainsbury Line and 34016 Sainsbury Line to create more regularized lot shapes and to allow for the vacant lot to construct a new single detached dwelling. The property at 34034 Sainsbury Line is approximately 1,027 square meters in size and currently contains a single detached dwelling. The property abutting this property is owned by the same individual and is approximately 7,604 square meters in size, containing 3 accessory buildings. And the proposed building lot is approximately 1,740 square meters in size and is currently vacant of any structures or buildings, with the owner planning to build a single detached dwelling. And then the property at 34016 Sainsbury Line is approximately 2,500 square meters in size and currently contains a single detached dwelling. These properties are situated on the east side of Sainsbury Line, north of the intersection of Main Street. The lands legally known as Biddulph Concession 5, part of Lot 29 on Reference Plan 33R 16561, Part 612 and Part 7 will essentially be split between all 3 property owners, resulting in 3 rectangular shaped lots from the existing 4 lots. All 3 lots will have sufficient frontage on a Sainsbury Line, meet lot size provisions, and will share the same lot depth of 102 meters. All parcels of land are designated as settlement area in the County of Middlesex official plan. They are designated residential in the Township of Lucan Biddulph's official plan, and there are currently zoned residential first density zone in the comprehensive zoning bylaw. No comments were provided by the public prior to the development of this report. Agency comments were provided by Middlesex County Emergency Services, Lucan Biddulph Building Division, and the Middlesex County Engineer. These comments mention 911 property address requirements, confirming that municipal services are fully contained on all lots and that spatial separation requirements are met, and county road widening dedications. As identified in the planning report, staff are of the opinion that the proposal is consistent with the PPS and conforms with both the county and township official plans. Given the above, I am recommending approval of the consent application B5 to 7, 2025, subject to the conditions provided in the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Alyssa. And I will note that the agent is here if there's any questions at this point. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is just about the proposed building lot in the center. It looks like there's maybe some physical constraints there, just with like a municipal drain or a ditch. And I'm wondering if that gets addressed at all through this process, or if that comes later on, for property access.
Through the chair, I believe this would be looked at when doing the building permit for when the actual single detached dwelling comes into, when we kind of see those drawings and how that would be developed and make sure that they maintain all the drainage as it is on the property now.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'm not going to read the entire motion because it is quite lengthy. There are 12 conditions attached to the motion, but I think Alyssa did a good job of going over her recommendation. And just a reminder to anybody watching, they can find the full motion and conditions on our agenda on our website. So just as a reminder, she is recommending that the application be granted, and it is subject to 12 conditions. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. And the third one, oh no, we have to adjourn. We have to adjourn as the Committee of Adjustment, and we're doing that at 6:13, and we will move into a public meeting under the Planning Act. A mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Regan. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So we have a zoning bylaw amendment application, and this is for a property on Richmond Street. Alyssa.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw amendment application before council is to amend the site-specific zoning to recognize a contractor's yard or shop as an additional permitted use. The subject land is currently accommodating various existing businesses which are not legally permitted in the current site-specific zoning. Adding the proposed use to the site-specific zoning would allow these businesses to continue to run on this property legally. The subject property is a 3.61 acre lot situated on the east side of Richmond Street and south of McIlvery Drive. The lands are legally described as part of Lot 21, Concession 1 North, Part 1 of Registered Plan 33R 12922 in the Township of Lucan Biddulph, County of Middlesex, municipally known as 34694 Richmond Street. The current uses of the property include an existing single-unit dwelling, general office space, business spaces for boat and vehicle repair, a fencing contractor, snow removal machinery, animal waste collection machinery, and storage space for water treatment machinery. Surrounding land uses include agricultural lands for crop production to the west, north, and east, with residential to the south. The property also abuts another parcel for farm industrial purposes on the corner. The lands are designated agricultural area in both the county and township official plans. They are currently zoned as a site-specific farm industrial M2-3 zone according to the township's zoning bylaw. The Sawville Bayfield Conservation Authority has commented that they do not oppose the approval of the requested zoning bylaw amendment, and no comments were provided by the public prior to the development of this report. This application has been reviewed against the provincial planning statement, the county official plan, and the township's official plan. The request to add a contractor's yard or shop to the site-specific zoning has met the policies of the PPS to permit a non-agricultural use in the prime agricultural area. The existing businesses are generally agricultural related or primarily serve properties within the agricultural area. And given the above, I am satisfied that this application is consistent with the PPS and conforms with both the county and township official plans. And as such, I'm recommending approval of the zoning bylaw amendment and that the bylaw be brought forward for consideration for council. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments on this application? Councillor Regan.
Madam Mayor, if I may, just a point of clarification on page 4. It says the provincial planning statement outlines policies to prevent non-agricultural uses in prime agricultural areas based on criteria. And it says that the property at 34694 Richmond Street is part of the prime agricultural area and not comprised of or designated as specialty crop area. And what's the difference? And how would that make a difference?
Through the chair, it's more of a specification of areas for that specialty crop areas, which we don't have within Lucan Biddulph. There's no areas that are specifically designated that specialty crop area. So
just for clarification, if it was a specialty crop area, then this wouldn't be permitted? Is that
through the chair, if it didn't meet that test, then that's one of the 4 tests required for the PPS in this instance, then it may not be permitted if it didn't meet that.
right? Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Madam Mayor.
And I should note actually that the applicant is online if we have any questions. Any questions or comments from committee? I actually might have one question, and it's more of a clarification, and it actually might be for the applicant. I understand that this application is coming basically, and I don't mean to be flippant, but as housekeeping, wanting to make sure that the business that's already there can conform within our zoning bylaws. But I just want to make sure that the land, the property is only being used for equipment storage, and that, you know, it notes in the report that equipment is used for animal waste removal and that there's no animal waste being stored on the property. Just want to make sure that that's the case. And I don't know if the applicant can answer that. I don't know.
Hello, yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I'd like to answer that question. Our purpose is to bring more skilled category business to our property, including agriculture or all those existing animal waste, everything. More of these things we want to attract our property into. More of the skill like vehicle business, industrial use purpose. That's what you want to answer. Want to know.
Well, I just wanted clarification that no animal waste was being stored on the property.
No, not at all.
No, that's all. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Did you have any other comments? I should have actually asked you before I put it out to the committee for questions, but did you have any comments on the application?
Hello. Yeah. Is it me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no other questions or comments on this application, then I will read the recommended, we have a recommended motion in front of us that the application for zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 2/2025 for the parcel of land owned by Masuda Sharif Sikh and Ahmed Iftar Sikh, legally described as part of Lot 21, Concession 1 North, part of 1 Registered Plan 33R12922 in the Township of Lucan Biddulph, County of Middlesex, be approved, and the reasons as were outlined in Alyssa's report. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Westman. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. With that, I would ask.
Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
With that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn our public meeting at 20 minutes after 6 to reconvene our regular meeting. A mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Westman. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So we do have then a delegation tonight in front of us next. And at this point, I would like to introduce, okay, missed the name. I know, I feel bad. Jen Godot, and she's an associate with MHBC, and she is going to present to us the work that's being done on the HAF2 application. And I will ask you to come up to the speaker's desk, Jen, and you are welcome to get going as soon as you get settled.
Yes. Can everybody hear me? Okay, good evening, everyone. As Mayor Kathy mentioned, my name is Jennifer Gaudette, and I'm an associate planner with MHBC. Next slide. So MHBC is a land use planning firm. We also do urban design, landscape architecture, and heritage planning. We've been around for about 50 years and have 4 offices in Ontario. Slide. We've been retained by the County of Middlesex for the HAF2 application. And in case anyone isn't familiar with that, that's basically an initiative of CMHC to incentivize housing. And in this case, it's in the form of amendments to zoning bylaws, comprehensive zoning bylaws. So we're working to do that for Strathroy, Caradoc, Lucan Biddulph, North Middlesex, and Middlesex Centre. And we're specifically looking at 4 initiatives under the HAF2, which are labeled there 1 to 2. So it's ending exclusionary zoning, reducing or eliminating parking standards, eliminating restrictions and adding flexibility, and designing and implementing guidelines for additional residential units, also known as ARUs. Right now, we're on the first phase, which is the jurisdictional scan. So that was looking at what other municipalities in Ontario are doing, what other municipalities in Canada are doing, and then what other municipalities are doing that are specifically looking at the HAF initiatives as well. This quick agenda for the slide. So we'll go through each of those 4 initiatives. Just a note that some of the recommendations that we've noted on here are very preliminary. We're hoping that those can be items that we discuss further with the municipal advisory committee that we've set up with everybody that was part of the HAF2 staff group. And then we would have further consultation with yourselves and members of the public once we've refined what these amendments would look like. So the first one is ending exclusionary zoning. This is what you would typically think of as an R1 zone that only permits single detached dwelling, which is the case in Lucan Biddulph. So we're looking at a number of different measures that we can use to not end exclusionary zoning, but permit a broader range of residential uses. So that could include combining the R1 and R2 zones, which would mean you could get semi-detached, for example, in any residential zone in the urban area. That's just for consideration. So that's just a starting point, something to think about. Also, you could do a zone that permits or is tailored to condominium developments. So those are typically where you would have the lot boundaries and you would have setbacks to those lot boundaries, and then all of the internal setbacks for condo roads and stuff are addressed for the lot itself, if that makes sense. So a different way of structuring your zoning to be a lot more flexible to incentivize that form of development. We've noted that this is something that a lot of other municipalities are doing, either as part of the HAF initiative or just on their own, is reducing the number of residential zones by combining them and then permitting a broader range, even in the lowest density residential zones. So we've reviewed Lucan Biddulph's official plan. We believe it supports a broad range of housing types, so there's no concern there. But some of the amendments, as I mentioned earlier, could include consolidating zones, expanding your permissions to allow a broader range as of right. And this would reduce zoning bylaw amendments and hopefully incentivize development because there'd be less uncertainty and risk with proposing these sorts of developments. Next slide. The second one we're looking at is reducing or eliminating parking standards. Now, where there's no public transit, so eliminating is it's just the wording from the HAF initiative, so don't worry. So this could include reducing parking rates in the zoning bylaw, establishing parking rates for ARUs or affordable housing, that sort of initiative, or other things that we've discussed with staff, like shared parking opportunities like that, that we could consider through the zoning bylaw. So this is another initiative that quite a few of the HAF municipalities are undergoing. And some are quite aggressive, like Edmonton has completely eliminated zoning or parking in their zoning bylaw. We're not proposing we go that far, but looking at what other municipalities are doing and what we could potentially incorporate here. Regulatory flexibility. This refers to things like lot frontage, minimum lot area, landscaped open space, those sorts of zoning provisions, and identifying opportunities where we can lower or increase them depending on what the provision is to avoid minor variances and zoning bylaw amendments. So looking at what other municipalities are doing, where we can, where we want to be conservative, where we want to be a little more innovative, and try to hopefully make council meetings and committee meetings a little shorter and speed up development without having to go through all of those. So we're looking at some different examples of that. If I could get the next slide. Oh, apologies. I think we eliminated that one. But we are looking at different ways that we can do that in the bylaw. And then we would talk about that with the advisory committee and then with everybody else. The fourth one is additional residential units. There's two components to this. As I'm sure everyone here is aware, the official plan amendment is still under appeal. So we wouldn't be able to bring in a zoning bylaw amendment for this without first having an OPA or that appeal settled. But we'd also be looking at bringing in the 4 units as of right in urban areas and then 3 in the hamlets and agricultural areas, which are the HAF initiatives. Oh, same slide still. And that's a requirement of the HAF. So even if this appeal was settled, we would still have to tweak it a little bit for the HAF. So as part of that, we're looking at not only the number of units and where they should go, but also different zoning regulations. For example, tandem parking. The Planning Act requires that ARUs are allowed to have tandem parking. So just making sure that that's understood and is in the bylaw. Another component of this is an ARU guideline. So many municipalities have done this. I'm sure you've seen them if you've gone online, but essentially what they are is just a PDF or sometimes a landing page where if you're interested in building an ARU, you can get a little bit of a 411 on it without requiring staff time. So that will come later in the process, but that is part of our project as well. Next slide. So these are the next steps. As I mentioned, we're only at the very beginning of this, which is the scan, and that report will be coming to staff this week, likely tomorrow. And that will be public, is my understanding. The next step is the regulatory framework. So that's where we actually craft the draft amendments and everybody sees them. We get a better feel for staff, what's being varied, what are the common amendments that we're seeing so we can try to address those as appropriate. Next stage is public engagement, which is public meetings, open houses, that sort of thing, where developers and residents and everybody can come in and provide feedback, and then implementation. So we're hoping to do the regulatory framework mid-August to have that ready. Public engagement in September, subject to everybody's schedules, which we'll sort out with staff this summer, and then have it all implemented early to mid-fall. So that's the presentation. Thank you everyone for your time. I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for that presentation. I do expect there might be some comments and conversations, so I'll look to council for any clarification or comments that you're looking to make at this time. Councillor Regan.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm just wondering about the second slide with respect to the parking. And I'm just wondering when these numbers of 1.5 or 1.25 spaces is when they're doing the math for this, is this all based on larger municipalities as opposed to say like a town, our town, our township is not very big. We have we're trying to have a vibrant downtown. We want people to go downtown. And also when we're talking about, I guess one of the things that concerns me about this is that the parking standard goes from like 1.5, I think it is, right, to 1.25. And it seems to me it's based on the fact that the parking standards go down because it's, if we base it on geared to income or rent, income geared to rent or to affordability, which makes an assumption that people who live in those places don't have two cars. Because in Lucan, most people have two cars. Because it's just, I hate to say it, but it's a bedroom community. But yeah, I finally said it. There you go. But it is. So you have lots of people that have two cars. And again, I'm not sure where, and again, I'm just sort of questioning how they got that 1.25 and how that would that really work in a town small like this. I mean, it would be London, maybe another bigger town, Toronto for sure, right? But I mean, because there's public transportation, but a place we don't have public transportation, I don't know if that's going to work.
Yes, so we did look at a number of different municipalities. Some are the big ones like Edmonton and London with all the transit, and many are not. Like we looked at Tilsonburg, for example, as one of the comparisons. So as in terms of the actual parking rate, we haven't discussed that with staff yet, so it will likely be revised. But we are aware that there's no transit, and the idea behind the parking minimum is that it is a minimum. So if a developer or home builder thinks that they can't market it at that rate, then they're free to provide as many parking spaces as, subject to other provisions in the zoning bylaw as they would like. The idea is that if you develop a product and a buyer who wants a reduced rate, you're not required to come in and get an amendment for that.
All right. Okay, thanks. Thank you. Good for now. Thank you very much.
Any other?
Thanks.
I think I saw your hand up, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, just wondering, you're representing a few communities. Do we all have to align the same way or no? I was just wondering that. That's good. When it comes to like I thought that one side was good. Like some of this we're already doing, and we're going to be doing when the official plan passes. So I think that'll be important at the public meeting to make people aware that this is, some of this is already moving forward, but it's part of the. Looks like we need to comply with 4 of these in order to get the funding. So I think that'd be really good to explain. Also, I'm a little bit I'm not sure on like don't quite understand it enough. Official plan and the provincial policy, and what we would if we didn't comply with some of this, we'd be forced to potentially anyways.
Yes, that's the case. So the Planning Act basically overrules all zoning bylaws, and they have basically said, you have to permit tandem parking for ARUs. And a recent regulation also limited what you can regulate for ARUs. For example, you can no longer have a 45-degree angular plane or any angular plane for ARUs. So they do trump local zoning bylaws.
Which out of those 4 that you have up there, they probably potentially trump a couple of them.
Yeah.
2 to 3 of them are. And again, I hope we can make the public aware of that in ourselves. I hate to be so blunt, but it's like I feel like you're typing and your council has no say.
Yeah, I realize I've had the benefit of writing the
yeah.
report, and none of you have seen it yet, but we do outline what is required by statute, and that there's really no point in debating because it's a statute.
Right, and I think that'll be important for at the public meeting, and again, I'm not worried about how blunt we are about it. I think we need to be even almost saying it's odd we got to have a public meeting because we have no say.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. It's disappointing, but you know, it is harder and harder for council to shape their community. That's for sure, with that, which is too bad. And I, you know, certainly I'm going to be very vocal about it. So yeah, thank you.
Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, is this process and looking at this, is this going to lead to like a pretty comprehensive overhaul of our zoning bylaw? Or is it kind of just looking at a few sections here and there as it aligns with this program?
Mostly just looking at the urban residential zones and then the parking standards as it relates to urban residential land uses. For ARUs, we have been asked by staff to look at clustering in agricultural areas, as well as the idea of like a reverse ARU, which is where you have an existing dwelling and you build a larger ARU beside it, and then the existing one becomes the ARU. So sort of the Brant County has provisions for that, and basically they just say the larger unit is the primary unit, and that adds flexibility. So it's not comprehensive, like it won't impact every zone. It's primarily urban residential, but there are some agricultural zones that would be affected as it relates to ARUs.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Regan touched on it, but I think with the a lot of the provincial regulations for housing, it's geared towards these larger urban centers and not necessarily for these rural areas. So through this process, I guess, how are we making sure that it has like the rural context, or it's looking at rural municipalities? Is that the jurisdictional review? Is it based on other rural areas, or how's that incorporated?
So right now we did a mix, and some of the municipalities were chosen by staff. Some we chose, but it gives a broad array of different municipality types. And we do have the populations included in our report. So everyone's aware, you know, municipality with 1 million people is not comparable to here, but they have these really exciting, innovative ideas that maybe we could take little aspects of. We don't have to do everything they're doing, but maybe we could take little tweaks, or maybe it's just something that council should be aware is an option. But in terms of bringing it to the local context, that's really where the municipal advisory committee comes in, and provides the local, you know, what's being varied all the time. If there's any projects that there was a variance, but it's been an issue now. We're also hoping for feedback on servicing, like, you know, maybe stacked townhouses or, you know, those high density uses just can't be supported from a servicing perspective. So things like that, that's where after this report, that sort of process starts. And then we get all the municipal feedback from you guys and from the public.
Thanks. And my last question was, and I think Deputy Mayor touched on it, but there's the statutory things that we must do, but then ultimately, is each local council going to get to make the decision on what the other amendments are?
Yes.
Each individual municipality?
Yeah. Yeah. So even though the county of Middlesex is organizing it, as the local councils, you're the ones in control of your own zoning bylaw.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I think it's a fascinating process since this funding came from the federal government, and yet it's all so contingent on provincial regulation. But to the point, I mean, I guess I'm not going to, you know, belabor it, but the point of we are a small municipality. I think in the list, I think we're the smallest in the list, right? Of the 4 municipalities in Middlesex County, right? So it's Strathroy, us, North Mid, and Middlesex Center. So we're the smallest. And it's interesting because like all 4, there's no transit from all 4.
Mhm.
And you know, the conversation I think that we as representatives at this level have to continually have with not only our provincial counterparts, but our federal counterparts, I mean, is that this is welcome funding. I think we were all excited when this funding came down. It's not very often you get that sort of direct federal funding to the municipality. But again, there has to be an understanding of what municipalities look like. And, you know, how we can find our way with that. I was curious about the ARU, and I think it probably has to do maybe with servicing, but why in our rural and hamlet areas would we be limiting that to 3?
My understanding is it's because of servicing. We can discuss that further with staff if the idea is that maybe 4 is appropriate, we could explore that too.
No, I assumed that that was it. And that would be the lack of servicing, right? So,
Mhm.
okay. And can you just explain what tandem parking is?
Yeah, so tandem parking is essentially if you had one driveway and you had one car parked and one car right behind them, and this car needs to move before you can move this one. Not side by side. Yeah. Yeah. So for ARUs, you need to do that from the Planning Act. But something we could consider if, when we're looking at the parking, say there's no appetite to reduce the parking numbers, the ratios, we could look at tandem parking. We could say, hey, if you want, you know, a townhouse dwelling or whatever, and you want to permit this and people think they can market it and build it and sell it that way, then who are we to get in the way? Or if we want to do shared parking in like downtown areas where there's an apartment and a commercial building and they have one parking lot and something's registered on title to guarantee those spots, like, you would just add parking as a use in the zoning bylaw, and there are different ways to address things that don't involve necessarily reducing the actual ratio.
Force us to be creative, right?
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Manders.
I don't know if this is the right time to ask the question or not, but I just, as you were speaking in that density and parking, like the apartments that are going up in Lucan, it's interesting where the tenants have to, they're advertising for the new one on the other end of town where free parking for a year and then you have to pay monthly for parking. And I was wondering, like, is that going to cause, is there any way during this or official plan or planning or in general that we can force that to not happen? Because if tenants decide not to pay for parking, it's going to push them on the street parking, which again, we don't allow in the winter time, and it creates a lot of other issues for neighbors. And when I seen that advertisement, it kind of got my attention because I thought, boy, will this people can save maybe, and I don't know what it is, $30-50 a month and park behind them in the subdivision for legally for 10 months of the year or whatever it is, 9 months of the year. And I guess maybe the fines don't even outweigh the parking. So they park out there 12 months of the year, you get fined, every other day, once a week. Like is there anything to stop? There probably isn't anything in the toolbox on development again with our town, the smaller municipality to not have these renters charging for parking.
It's not something the zoning bylaw would regulate, but something that could be explored is like permit parking on your streets for overnight parking. Yeah, like they do in Toronto, and obviously it's a very different context, but that's something that other municipalities are doing too, where, okay, if you don't need to provide parking for your development or there's reduced parking, maybe we'll let you on the streets and, odd days of the week you're parked on the north side, even days of the week you're on the south, and that's how the snow clearing gets addressed. And, whatever fee is appropriate could be charged for that.
Yeah, which again would be tough for that area, for the development of that area. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's always a balance.
Yeah. No, interesting.
And just to keep in mind, the zoning would be the minimum. So a developer could always provide more.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Gotcha. Thank you.
Most often do. So
Okay, one last call for questions or comments on this presentation. So just so that we're clear, the framework for August, public engagement done for September, did you say?
Mhm.
And then looking for implementation mid to late fall.
yeah, October, November, depending on the extent of the comments that we get, if we have to go back to the board and then do another open house or something, that might push it back, but definitely fall of this year is what we're aiming for.
Okay, well, that's good. Thank you. Well, thank you for coming. We certainly appreciate your participation tonight. And it wasn't as late as you thought it was going to be. So now you'll be able to get home a bit early, but certainly we appreciate you coming.
Yeah, I got to drive back to Ingersoll. So
Well, that's not that far.
No, and again, if anyone has any, items they'd like staff and us through them to look at, let us know and we can get a head start on it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Take
Thank you.
note. Okay, thanks for that. If I can get a mover and a seconder just to receive that presentation for information, please. Councillor Regan and Councillor Manders, all in favor? Or Deputy Mayor Manders, thank you. All in favor, and that is carried. Sorry about that, Deputy Mayor. Well, we've got a set of minutes in front of us for June the 3rd. And if nothing needed to be amended or updated, thank you, good night. Then I would ask for a mover and a seconder to approve those as circulated. Councillor Hodgins and Deputy Mayor Manders, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Under the consent agenda, there was some items that were, that obviously I didn't hear of any that wanted to be pulled by council. And then, so if that's the case, then I would ask for a mover and a seconder, to, receive those items for information on the consent agenda, please. Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins, all in favor? And that's carried. And then under correspondence, there was, I guess, yeah, no. Under correspondence, there was a number of resolutions that we've received from communities across the province. The council, I don't think, wanted to pull any of those for discussion. I didn't hear. Then I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive and file those items of correspondence, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan, all in favor? And that's carried. On to committee reports. Blue Watt,
No, nothing.
CEDC.
Nothing at this time, Madam Mayor.
Right. We had a Lake Huron meeting, and it was very efficient. It was a very efficient meeting. Probably the most interesting part of the meeting was an update. We've gotten into an agreement with the federal government and Oneida Nation of the Thames to provide water to them. So that is ongoing. This is obviously going to be years coming, but we're certainly moving along. So that was really the largest item for discussion that we had. The fire boards, I don't think that there's anything. There'll be, yeah, there won't be anything. No, that's in the consent agenda. The consent agenda motion covers that motion. ABCA.
There are a set of draft minutes attached from last month's meeting, and we're meeting again this Thursday.
Parks and Recreation.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I do have a report from the June 10th meeting. So the minutes will be attached for our next meeting in July. There were 3 reports that we had. 2 from Darcy, 1 from Abby, basically talking about some of the improvements that were made to the Market Street Ball Diamond, some improvements that we're going to be following up with the Grant Pavilion. The AED donations was also talked about. There were some information about the pool programs, particularly about the free pool pass lending program and the extended pool season, which has met with a good deal of success. There was also just some information about capital projects, the Market Street Diamond, the pool heater, that pool lane ropes, volleyball nets, the gym key fob system that was discussed as well. And then in Abby's report, she spoke about the summer day camp. There's weeks that have already filled. It's going extremely well along with swimming lessons. Again, we've opened the pool a little bit early, so there's again been a lot of registration and a lot of interest. And to your point earlier, the seniors exercise programs, we spoke about that for probably a good solid 10 minutes. There is a couple of seniors on the committee It was a lot of good information, and a lot of people are using these programs. So congratulations to staff for running such good programs. And that's my report for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions for Counselor? Okay, trails and connectivity.
Yeah, we held a meeting last week and well attended. We spoke about the potential of a sidewalk along Richmond, and there was some conversation about some of our trail ideas for around the soccer field and whatever. Obviously, funding would determine that. There was a great idea came forward about putting together a trail map that we could circulate, and whether it's online or a physical trail map that could be made available either at the counter or through local businesses, and that might encourage usage and an interest in, if people are starting to look at the trails and they might come up with some better ideas, we could build on that. So there was a pretty lots of conversation. It was good, some good and some a little challenging, but we got through it. It was good. So thank you.
Good, thank you. Counselor, any questions on that report? Okay, into staff reports. Ron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report I have before council tonight is CAO 15-2025. It's in regards to Bill 17, which was a piece of legislation that received royal assent, I believe, on June the 5th. And it has a number of changes there. I tried to summarize a report that County Planner Abby Heddle presented to County Council, and it is also included in your package this evening. And in addition to that, we also received a further letter from our development charge consultant, Lisa Courtney at BM Ross. So she also had some things to say about some of the changes that are going to directly impact us. Some of them are worth noting. Some of the changes to things like development charges as to when we can collect them from multi-unit residential developments. Right now, we typically would collect at the point of building permit, and that is being changed to we can only collect at the point of occupancy, which, you think, okay, well, it's not that big of a deal, but it does change our process quite a bit, and we have to set up a new tracking system to make sure that we keep track of those. The thing we have to remember is the developers in major subdivisions, those are the easy ones to keep track of. The harder ones are when, Joe Blow lives out on north end of Corsi line, he's building his own house. Those ones are the ones that are more difficult to keep track of, and, they tend to take a lot longer to build, and sometimes those files don't get closed for a year to a year and a half. So there's a lot of changes. Some of them are going to cost us some money. It really does change things. And one of the things that kind of irks us as a municipal staff member is when the province imposes rules on us as to, trying to make building multi-unit residential buildings more attractive, but it ultimately ends up costing the existing taxpayers more money at the local level. So they're implementing new rules, but they don't, not suffer, but they don't feel the impact. And it's like we as a local municipality have to collect those monies, those lost monies from our ratepayers. And when it comes to, large infrastructure projects, it's difficult for them to understand, I guess, that we have to have that in place for somebody to be able to build in the first place. And they just keep putting our collection of revenue further down the road, which there is a cost to that. It even goes so far as to say we can't charge interest on multi-unit residential buildings like the apartment buildings when there's annual payments that they can make over the next, help me out, Dan, Alyssa, 20 to 25 years for them to pay our development charges. And now we can't even charge interest. So, payment in year 20 is vastly different than payment in year 1. So it's those kinds of things that really, there's lots of changes. We're going to have to keep track of it. The regulations have yet to come out, I understand. So a lot of times the details are in the regulations. So we'll continue to monitor it. many thanks to the county planners because they're really on top of this stuff. So we'll just keep at it and keep our eyes open. Glad to answer any questions if I can, or Dan or Alyssa may be able to help me out here.
All right, thank you for that report, Ron. Questions or comments in front of us? Councillor Regan.
Thank you once again, Madam Mayor. So Ron, it just sounds to me like, so I guess just for clarification, that deferral of payment, the way I'm reading it is that it's not just on multi-residential, it's on all buildings. And just second to that, it seems to me that there's always these barriers. It's just when I was reading this, it's like barrier after barrier for us to collect these. This is how we do this is how we do improvements, right? And I'm almost thinking that when our next delegation, we need to, I don't know, they've probably heard it 100 times, but this is a big barrier again. It just, all of these rules, all of these things that change that really kind of just we can't, you can't charge interest, you can't collect. And it just, to me, it just seems very confusing, like the development charge freeze as well. It just, again, it seems to me just every time we try to move forward with this and collect it, we just like, we had our lower DCs and now we've got them up a little bit higher and it's not like we can't collect them anymore. That's the impression I'm getting. So how are we gonna make improvements? Or how do they expect us to make improvements?
I'm not sure how to answer that. I agree. I think, it's an awareness thing. And if we can use one of our delegation meetings at AMO or an upcoming conference to address these kinds of things, to try and educate the ministries, it's fine to try and attract more housing types, but in our opinion, they shouldn't be doing it on the backs of existing taxpayers. Cheaper housing should not be a municipally funded initiative. I'll put it that way.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Ron.
Deputy Mayor.
I can't find it right now to read it, but I think I saw in there where it was 60% of the DC charges are to go towards water and sewer, like 60%. But I was thinking, are we already complying to that anyways, or even higher? Which is good news. So we can go, go lower and split it elsewhere. Like I just thought.
Water and sewer are obviously our largest,
Yep.
our largest amounts in there.
But I'm thinking that we're probably already hitting that 60% or higher.
I would agree.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I just was wondering. Yeah, or maybe even. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so through the chair, just maybe a point of clarification. So the regulation is not that it has to go towards those specific services. It's that you have to allocate 60% of your development charges every year to a fund. So every single year you have to allocate that 60% of whatever you've collected to a project.
Sewer and water or to us? No.
To a project as identified in your development charges study.
So just, in that line of thinking, that does concern us, because if we collect, just for round numbers, $100,000 a year in development charges, what this is saying is that 60,000 has to be spent on a project. Well, some of our projects are very large. Obviously, the sewage treatment plant being the one front and center for us. We have to save years to spend that. It doesn't work, and that's what I think the education part has to come into play here.
But and this is in the process of being implemented, and correct? Gotcha. And then will be implemented the next month or so.
The regulations are coming in.
The regulation.
Oh, and then it'll be adopted, or it just becomes law. Or
So, through the chair, point of clarification. So this is now the law.
Mm-hmm.
This has already been passed. There are certain aspects of the various bills that were brought forward that still require regulations, or the province can make regulations on them. We don't have those yet. We haven't seen them, but a majority of the things that we're talking about right now are the law now.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Yeah, I don't say anything. I don't think I'll say anything at this point. I just think that we need to be creative when we get our delegation list as to our presentations. right? And I think for those of us that are going to AMO, and when we have opportunity of seeing MPPs in hallways and their staff, we have to have those continue those conversations outside of our delegation, I think, because the messages of how this is going to hurt communities and small municipalities like ours need to be heard over and over again. So, thank you for the work putting that report together. If I can get a mover and a seconder to receive that for information, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Hodgins, all in favor? That's carried. Did you have anything verbal, Ron?
No.
Nothing building, no finance, no planning, no public works, parks and recreation. Darcy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the report in front of you is PR 13/2025, the award of the RFP for the lease of the 269 Main Street, Lucan, our newly acquired property. The report is in front of you. Just to quickly sum it up, we did get 2 applicants. They were very close. One of the reasons the report took so long is because they were so close. But we did work with Middlesex Procurement, and they were awesome to work with, and they're definitely an asset to have. And they helped us write the RFP as well as score the RFP. And there's also attached a template of a lease agreement that we'd be looking to get into with the successful applicant. So I will gladly take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Questions or comments on the report or lease agreement in front of us? Yep. Councillor Regan?
Just one quick question for Darcy. Is there any cost to the municipality to get this ready for occupancy?
There would be like a very small amount of staff time to clean it up and just get it kind of ready, but we've done a lot of that, but no big work to be done or cost incurred, no.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Darcy. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other comments, Councillor Hodgins?
Thank you. Just 'cause it's not specified in the report, but can I ask what the business plan is or what the proposal is to operate in that space?
Yes, to you, Madam Mayor. Basically, my easiest way to explain it is kind of like a farmer's grocery store. So they do farmers' food locally grown, and they're selling it out of this location. That's my easiest way to describe it.
Yeah, I think it's laid out there. You've protected the township anyways, but like compliance for tenant use or any upgrades that need to be done for tenant use would be on the tenant anyways. If there's any surprises then from our building, I guess.
Yes, you, Madam Mayor. I think it's pretty well laid out in the lease agreement. So we would obviously be responsible for structural, like windows, roof, stuff like that to the building, but anything inside the building would be the tenant's responsibility.
Gotcha. And that, I will say that, I don't know if I didn't read it that closely, but I did know on structural purposes, if we came into something knowing what the intended use is, say 8-10 years, we don't know. We don't know how many years out what the intended use is. The intended use for that will be 20 a pad one day. I guess I am a little concerned on if structurally we had to spend a lot of money on a new roof and it was $50,000 and it was more than our revenue we're going to bring in. Is there an out by us if something structurally happened? I just wasn't sure.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, I believe there is a clause that we can, and actually if the tenant really needed to, they could get out of it if the situation abides, but I will also make sure with our legal that we're good in that circumstance.
Yeah, that was just my only concern again with the long-term use of what the intention of buying it. So, no, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, then we do have a recommended motion in front of us that the council award the RFP for the lease of 269 Main Street to Tina Gockstrop, and that staff be directed to enter into a formal lease agreement with Tina Gockstrop for a term of 3 years. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins. All in favor? And that's carried. Did you have anything verbal, Darcy?
Nope, that is all. We had the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee meeting, but and the TCAC last week, and I think they were both fairly successful. So, nope, that's all.
Nothing verbal, Lisa. Thank you. Other business. I don't believe that there is anything in other business. Any notices of motion? Councillor comments? Councillor Westman.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Darcy and his team for lots of work they've been doing in the Granton Park, getting the helping the gardens get up and going again after the ball diamond renovations. So we do have some garden plots that are being planted, and it looks pretty good so far. I'm very excited about the pavilion repairs that are going to be done soon. The pavilion's being rented out pretty much every weekend, so it's a lot of activity there. And I've got to say the trail around the Granton Park is getting a lot of use. Like there's a lot of people walking it, so I could not be happier about that. So it's all good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I just had not a comment, but maybe a question for staff. Maybe I probably should have brought it up, Ron, when you were doing your report. But we had our auditor present last week or last meeting, excuse me, and she was quite, I think, firm on her desire that we come up with an investment policy, and I don't really want that to get lost. It's not something that I expect for July, but I don't know if that is something that maybe we can put on our business arising, if staff could come back with a report on what that might look like, because I do think that would be helpful for the budget committee and going forward, if we could, as I say, I just don't want to lose sight of it.
But through the mayor to the rest of council, yes, I have had a conversation with our Director of Finance, Treasurer Catherine. She is going to work on something. I can't tell you a timeline. I don't imagine it will be ready for the July meeting, but it'll probably more so be the August meeting. So.
No, and as I say, we don't need it for the July meeting. It's just that it doesn't get lost in the excitement of summer coming and starting on Friday, right? Not too many, yeah, officially summer on Friday, so. With that, I'll just remind everybody that with the beginning of summer, kiddies will be out on the streets and having fun, so have an eye out. And we only meet twice in the summer, so we meet Tuesday, July 8th at 6 p.m. and Tuesday, August the 5th at 9 a.m. So put that in your calendars now, please, as a reminder. But only 2 meetings this summer, during the summer. With that, we have 2 bylaws in front of us, bylaws 26-2025 and 202-2025 inclusive. And the motion is that they be read a first, second, third, and final time. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Regan, all in favor? That's carried. And a motion to adjourn at 8 minutes after 7. A mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Regan.